Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight news, and reviews on a daily basis. It's July 19th, 2024, and I'm joined by a few people today, but firstly, Clark Taylor. And Clark, well, I've got a bone to pick with you, because I was watching the show yesterday, and you said that Will Ospreay versus MJF from this week's Dynamite was as close as we've seen to a Steamboat versus Flair almost 60-minute match, right? Well, I've got specifically 9 things to say to you. Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness, the Men's Royal Rumble in 2020, I don't know if that counts, Austin Aries versus Tyler Black, CM Punk versus Samoa Joe, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar, and Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada 2018. Are you seriously telling me that MJF versus Will Ospreay was closer to Ricky Steamboat versus Ric Flair as those, I actually said 8 matches were?
I've never been more excited to answer a question in my life, because I just watched the Home Run Derby this week, as we do in America. And it's like the Home Run Derby. You just threw me an absolute meatball right over the middle of the plate that I can just take absolutely deep. Because if you look at the comparison that I made, MJF, very comparable to Ric Flair. Stylistically speaking, you named a lot of matches, and it was cute, all those names and stuff. Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle aren't really
Shawn
like
Michaels
Flair
Bret
or
Hart up
Steamboat.
there for you, though, on your best matches of all time?
It's all time to me. I wasn't talking specifically 60-minute matches. I was making
Yeah,
the
you were.
comparison.
That's exactly what you
said.
You said went Broadway.
I was making the comparison of Maxwell Jacob Friedman to Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to Will Ospreay, which is a massive compliment. I forgot we live in an age where you can't like things anymore, and 2 things can't be true at once. I can love Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and feel like their version of a 60-minute match was less comparable to Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat than Max and Ospreay's was. There are 2 different matches in 2 different eras under 2 different scenarios with different storylines. It's apples
If that's what you meant, fair enough, but that is not how it came across yesterday.
The reason that
I actually take it back if that's what you meant.
The reason that I'm comparing them is because I see MJF as the modern day Flair, and Steamboat.
Okay, that's fair.
I think Ospreay maybe even more talented than Steamboat, but Steamboat doesn't get enough credit for how good he is, and that's a beautiful comparison too. I was trying to compliment how great I thought this match was, not compare it to other 60-minute bouts.
Okay.
That's not necessarily what I meant by it.
Okay, fair enough. I'll let that one slide. But yeah, I think all the Instagram comments might need to know that as well, because I think everybody took it the same way that I did. That was the best since. But I mean, I don't think it's fair to compare Ospreay to Steamboat, because I don't think Steamboat would suddenly forget to sell his knee in the last 10 minutes of a match after selling it for 50 minutes.
You know, adrenaline is a heck of a thing.
Absolutely, but it is good to see you here today, Clark, and it is also good to see Shad. How are you today, Shad?
Hi, guys. It's me, Shad with the Learning Tree, getting my good old podcast time. Hi, guys.
You gotta get that podcast time in. Also joining us today, we have Jordy. How are you, Jordy?
I'm good, mate. I'm back. I had a little hiatus of Tuesday, which the lads kindly brought me up without me there to defend myself. And I noticed Shad's not saying anything now without chaos to back him up. But you know, we're not gonna start it off on
this man. Get this man off of here right now.
No, I'm
Go
joking.
Back to where you were Tuesday.
It's all of no, man. I don't want to go back to Birmingham. Nothing against Birmingham, but I'm happy here.
Where
I'm
I was
happy
born.
Here. Well,
I was born in Worcester.
Well, you go back there then.
I left there. There was nothing to do. It was too boring.
I hope every chicken nugget you eat is just a tofu nugget.
No.
Birmingham,
Oh,
Alabama.
that's too far.
Yeah,
That's
don't
too
insult.
far.
Don't come for me, Shad. Come for me, but don't come for
That's
the
a low
nuggets.
blow.
Yeah, way too far, bro.
What are you
Way too
thinking?
Sorry.
Line cross.
Breaded
Charlie.
chicken?
I'm in
You're going to
Baltimore,
criticize
my bad.
breaded chicken on today's show? Talk about a hot take.
Oh, that is a boiling hot take.
Why
But
don't you
it
go
is
watch
also
Oscar
boiling
and
hot
Hendry
here in
and
the
those
UK today, which is it's why there's no TV behind me. I've not forgotten about it. Last time that it was super hot like in this in the UK, I had my laptop linked to the TV and it all crashed middle of the show. Not risking it again today. But let's talk about the WCW rumored revival. I say rumored, it all came from Jeff Jarrett kind of just waffling on his podcast. Jeff Jarrett basically said that he thinks a WCW revival on Netflix could work. And my response to it was, yes, it could work in the same way that any WWE TV show could work. But I think if they revive it under the WCW name, the expectations are going to be sky high from the start. And when you return to anything old, people are saying, oh, it's not as good as it used to be. I think it's an awful idea for them to do. But Clark, you were a WCW guy growing up. I want to get your thoughts on this topic.
I love WCW, and that is in the top 5 dumbest things I've heard this week. And I heard some dumb stuff this week. No way in a million years does this work. We saw what happened with ECW. We've seen what happened with ROH. Flashback brands work in fashion, not in professional wrestling right now. Not right this second. I mean, bless the NWA. They're doing their best, but it's a struggle. I mean, even TNA, as well as they're doing, rebranding back from Impact to TNA. The throwback thing is throwback when it comes to, nostalgia. But that's only going to bring an audience in for like a week, and it'll never feel like what it was. Just a repackaged version of WCW this far after the fact is no good. At least not in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Clark. I fully agree with you there. And I mean, the controversy continues. I mean, Jeff Jarrett's going to hear that. The fact that you said that's the dumbest thing anybody's said this week. I'll tag him on Twitter.
Good.
Sorry, Jeff. Premium version of it now.
Sorry, Jeff.
One of those blue ticks. It's really.
And we all knew Road Dogg was singing the whole time. Tell him that too. The roadie.
The absolute audacity.
We've
got
got the
Chris
whole
Leclerc.
time.
We have Chris Leclerc saying that he's from Boston, Massachusetts. Shout out to you, Chris. And we got Anthony Manzano saying, would it be Nitro or Thunder? I mean, you got to go all the way and do Nitro, I think. But I think it'd be a failure. Not failure, but I think the expectations would be too high, no matter what. But Shad, I'd love to get your perspective on this.
So it sounds intriguing, and I'm not gonna lie to you. When you pitch the idea, and I know I think a lot of people are like, nah, it shouldn't happen. There's not enough time to be allocated. Don't touch something that is near dear to our hearts in regards to nostalgia. But it's kind of how you like design it, and what Jeff said. I don't think he necessarily meant like, oh, they should just go full throttle, bring back WCW. But I think he's saying that it would work in this era of not television streaming with Netflix because there's less restraints on what you can do on Netflix compared to cable television. And in that standpoint, I don't disagree. I think WCW in a modern day, platform on a Netflix could be very interesting. I feel like it could be, similar to what we grew up with as kids on WCW television. A little bit more edgier, a little bit more violent at times. Like you can really design it to that point. But do I think they should bring it back? Absolutely not, because it's gonna be too much. I don't think there's enough roster space to allocate a whole other show. You already have Raw, you already have SmackDown, you have NXT. We're talking to bring back WCW, kind of designing and creating a roster for it. It just wouldn't hit the same. But the idea of like a show in the essence of what WCW brought to us in the 90s on Netflix, I think it'd be pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I think you can make cool television out of that, but I wouldn't bring it flat out back into um to the world of pro
Yeah.
wrestling, because to like Clark's point, right? Like you talk about like with like I feel like ECW was probably the best example of recent time when they
Yeah.
brought it back, and it just wasn't the same, right? It's like you
It was
neutered
not.
you neutered ECW, like
Yes, so we're
you.
gonna let the same people that allowed WrestleMania 31 with Sting and Triple H to happen and just buried WCW for no reason after it's been dead for 20 years to bring back the brand. Come on, that's silly.
Why are you
Are we
so
trusting the
angry,
same
bro?
people though? Like, are we
Yeah, it's
trusting
not the
the same?
same people, is it?
Yeah, no, it's
But-
it's a different. It is
Who's
a different
involved in that
team.
match?
Would have been a great take 3 years ago. That, but no, Clark, I do agree with you, and I agree with you, Shad. I just don't think there's a demand for another WWE show or any major wrestling show unless it's something substantially different. Perhaps what's his name? Freddie Prinze Jr.'s pitching with like these characters and stuff. I think it would have to be so different and so out there for there even to be demand for another major wrestling product.
Yeah, it's just that they have so many other. It's the fact that they have three consistent brands right now. Because,
Yeah.
like, you talk about the roster, there is ways, like, that's a great way to introduce, like, making, like, Dragon Lee a cruiserweight champion on WCW like that, similar to how it was with Ray back and, like, Ultimo Dragon and stuff like that. Or even, like, like, they got, like, they got characters that can work, but I just don't know if their roster is stacked enough to like allocate a whole nother show, because then every roster is like kind of super thin at that point.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong at all. But Jordy, what's your thoughts on this situation?
Similar, but also different. No, it's something. It's a little bit like Jeff Jarrett's fantasy booking in his head, because this is something I've literally done on WWE Universe mode on 2K. And listen, I made it work. Like, I'm not saying I'm better than Triple H at booking, but I made it work. I did nick a lot of people from AEW, and you probably can't do that. But my only possible, that was just me being silly. On a serious note, what about if they took an hour off Raw and made Raw 2 hours and SmackDown 2 hours? So you had an hour's worth of TV there. Could you make up an extra hour to make another 2 hour show? I think you could. I think they do have the roster. Like, people talk about the potential of women's mid-card titles, and I want that to happen. One thing I've always said is where do they fit in time-wise? And that's why I've always kind of had it sat in the back of my mind, hoping that when this Netflix deal comes in, although it's not a lot of time, we'll lose the adverts, hopefully, or they won't be as substantial or as long, and through that we gain more time. But yeah, that's the only thing. I guess, being devil's advocate, is I also hear a lot of people say this person isn't getting the time they deserve. This person isn't getting the shot to have TV time. This person. So this would be an opportunity to do that. I completely agree. Sticking WCW on it is almost failure to start, failure from the off. I guess it's like you're going to annoy people. You would have to make it very good to bring it back, but you never know. I was going to say if you stick CM Punk on it, but like, it's not like Collision necessarily worked. But I think there's potential. There's potential. I think for another show. I think that there's time, and I think the roster is building. We keep seeing that WWE seem to still be in the market, picking up free agents, developing new superstars, developing new wrestlers. So long-term picture possibly, but yeah, being WWE, being WCW on it, I'm not sure whether that is necessarily the best option.
No, it certainly is a tough one. I mean, Anthony Manzano suggesting, honestly, it could work if it's like a second developmental show alongside NXT. Maybe. Like, that would be probably the best chance of it working. But I just don't know if there's a demand for a second developmental. Unless you wanted to do it like in like a small studio setting, maybe. And like, I don't know, perhaps. But
belts as well. That's an instant question mark. Championship belts. So like, in my head, the world heavyweight has to go to WCW. That should be where that belongs in my head, rather than on Raw. And then you need to make another belt, and it's like, I don't know if it works.
Oh gosh, we got this comment from Soul. Why does it look like Jordy is speaking into a ferret's behind?
I might be. Listen, what I do in the privacy of my own home, Soul, is not your business, actually.
But anyway, on that note, let's talk.
Is Soul anti-ferret?
Yeah.
Is that the headline
maybe.
coming out of today's show?
That's what we do in the
Maybe it
north of
is.
England, man. We don't find
Western
mic covers.
Republic Soul anti-ferrets.
I just went outside and found a furry animal and turned it into a mic cover.
Oh, now you're gonna get us cancelled. But let's now move on to something which everybody can believe in, and that is Joe Hendry. Because in case you haven't seen it, Joe Hendry was on Talk Is Jericho this week, and he was talking, and he said that he's going to win the TNA Championship tomorrow night at Slammiversary, and once he wins it, he's going to grab the mic, and he's going to challenge John Cena to a match. He's going to call out John Cena. Clark, do you believe that we could get Joe Hendry versus your personal favorite wrestler of all time, John Cena?
I love Joe Hendry and I believe in him. I don't want this. It doesn't help me in any way. And I don't want to get too nasty about sweatbands and all kinds of other stuff and retirement tours and whatnot. But nobody wants to root against either of these guys. And so that's my biggest fear here. And nobody doesn't want to do the Joe Hendry clapping and chanting during his entrance. And nobody doesn't want to root for Cena on his retirement tour. That's why I had to make the joke in the first place, right? And make fun of this guy because it's frustrating. He's absolute Hall of Famer, arguably the greatest of all time. I don't personally believe he's the greatest of all time, but he's up there. Cena is. With this end of his career thing, what more can we see? I don't know, because he's stuck in this place where every time you're going to get the Cena rub, it feels like it's more Cena gets the rub himself and just elevates further and you get stuck. And I don't want Joe Hendry to have to navigate around that in some way. And I don't see a result when it comes to a matchup between John Cena and Joe Hendry where it benefits both and not one or the other. And that is my greatest fear about this. That's the one thing I don't want to happen because I think Joe Hendry has earned the opportunity to have a run. I would keep him as far away from John Cena as I could. It's too late now. It's in the cards. I don't know necessarily, though, how this is executed in a way that it fully benefits Hendry other than clips being shown.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest, even if you lose to John Cena, it benefits you in some capacity, unless you're like a major talent. Like, let's say Braun Breaker beats everybody and then he loses to John Cena suddenly. Like, that probably wouldn't be beneficial. But somebody like Joe Hendry, that'd be hugely beneficial for him. So many more eyes on him.
I just think it's too early. I mean, here's the thing is, how many more eyes does he need to prove his worth? We've seen what his entrance did on an NXT show. And so that's where I just don't see how it directly benefits Joe in a way other than being able to say, I wrestled John Cena, which for him, if that's a career goal and they connected and they're going to put on a great match, then that's totally fair as well. I will add that that's completely fair to me. And if it's like a one-off thing, like, hey, I can say I wrestled John Cena and I have this opportunity once in a lifetime. But like, I mean, I'm just
twice
saying,
in a lifetime.
Yeah, now a couple times, three, 4 times in a lifetime.
Slammiversary.
Well,
the Rock John Cena Slammiversary.
You got Santino Marella is gonna be like, we have your
special
secret
guest
opponent right after he wins it, and
John Cena.
John Cena. There you go.
Oh,
sorry,
gosh.
My bad. I know we're no spoilers. I apologize.
How dare you?
Numero 1 Superfly says, I don't think we will get Joe Hendry versus John Cena. However, I would like John Cena to acknowledge Joe Hendry on Raw and say he's a believer. Yeah, I'd love to just see them have an interaction, to be honest. That's true too. Or perhaps an open challenge to Soul's point. I wouldn't be against that either. I think those are two Very interesting suggestions. But something else which is very, very interesting, which I want to talk about for just a split second, is our good friends over at Next Level. Now, if you guys don't know what Next Level is, firstly, where have you been? What rock are you living under? But I'll explain it, right? Next Level have taken all our social media links and they put them in one link, and that link is nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all our content across all platforms linked all in one place. But they also have an app, and within their app there is a sub app, and that sub app is purely a wrestling community, a thriving wrestling community, may I add. We had Wrestling Takes Cameron on the other day, and he's on there. So many people are on there. So many top wrestling creators. You guys can get that app, and it is absolutely brilliant. Simply go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all our content across all platforms linked all in one place, plus to download their app. It's all free, guys. You've got nothing to lose. If you don't like it, you can just delete it. But now, moving on to the next topic, let's talk about something that Jordynne Grace talked about today. And that is the possibility of a TNA versus NXT Worlds Collide show. I believe, and I will double check myself, but I'm 99% sure it was in an interview with Sports Illustrated. Jordynne Grace said it is her dream to see a TNA versus NXT Worlds Collide show, and she is certain that TNA would win it. But that's not the question, because I don't even think it's necessarily an if this is going to happen, because I think it probably is. My question for you, Shad, is should it happen? Because if they do this, especially if it's a TNA versus WWE show, I mean, surely that's gonna lead to some political controversy between the two companies.
And that's the big part of it, right? It sounds great. You can fantasy book the matches, but it's when you have to get the pen and paper and you got to etch out who has to win is where you're like, I don't know, because I don't want my superstar to lose, and I don't want my superstar to lose. It's got to be equal or to close to equal as you can make it, right? Say this, right? Obviously, Worlds Collide is a pay per view that's prevalent within TNA. I think they should do it. And I would do it kind of similar to how like Forbidden Door is, where you can kind of mix and match matches like Slammiversary. We got the Rascals versus New Catch Republic. There is a member of NXT that's a big cornerstone to TNA, and he's getting part of the team. At least you know an NXT superstar is going to win that match, and it probably will be the Rascals. But it's going to probably have to be matches where it's more disposable names on the NXT side who can take losses, right? If you're gonna put the big, like, if you put Obafemi, he's gonna have to win. You put Roxanne Perez, she's gonna have to win. If you got the main stage people that are on the top of the card on NXT, they're gonna have to win because WWE isn't. They don't benefit as much from this card than TNA does. WWE just being stamped to it, NXT being stamped to it, does enough for a TNA. But if it's a car that TNA wants to have it for their pay per view, they're gonna have to, not complain about the people that they're gonna get. They're gonna have to get the people like the Izzy Dames, the Tavion Heights, the Tatum Paxleys, right? People that are great talents and they're good to have on the card, but you can get wins off of them just because they're not getting a lot of wins on NXT and they're not doing a lot of big time stuff at the moment, and they're so young in their career where them being in a pay per view can only benefit and help them in the long run. So I mean, I think you can do it. It's really just how you set up the card. But if you're talking like best of the best on both sides, it's going to be a tough one because I think NXT shouldn't really lose any of those matches to be honest with you. Like, and
Yeah.
I gotta say this too, also, because I know we've always had a debate. Salute to Drizzy about the Knockouts division and the NXT Women's division. It's not a debate anymore, at all.
Oh,
None
wow.
whatsoever. The Knockouts division is super paper thin, and you can argue the Knockouts division may be one of the weaker North American women divisions in professional wrestling right now. Cause you got Jordynne Grace, and who you got after that?
Yeah.
Who?
We'll wait.
Trash by negligence? Who got a match this weekend?
Trash by negligence.
Come on, like this. It's true. They've lost so much too. Like losing Trinity. Come on, that was a big loss. Losing Mia Yim, big loss. Chelsea Green, big loss. They got talented young women on their roster, but they're not the same Knockouts division. NXT, especially now that you just added two of the best women's wrestlers in the world, and they're coming to NXT. Roxanne, Stephanie, and Julia is like the best trio of women's wrestlers out of any roster in professional wrestling. I'm taking those three in ring over any other women 7 days out of the week.
100%. I'm with you, Shoddy. Ben is experiencing some audio issues. So let's go ahead and let's move on to our next segment, though, of the afternoon here. Let me dive into this stuff. And
my bad. I completely just made Ben's audio
You
melt.
fried him, bro.
You broke Ben's audio. No, wait, that's the wrong one. We're back. Sorry, we're going here. Okay. Jordy, we've got bad news for you.
No.
And I'm not talking Barrett. It turns out mommy herself, Rhea Ripley, the Australian queen of the world, has given her phone number to one half of the team formerly known as the Usos. Main event, Jey Uso himself. Obviously, there's a lot of cell phones involved in Jay's entrance, so adding the phone gimmick was not lost upon me. That one made me kind of laugh. But dang, little competition here, a little Jay Dom action. What do you think? And how are we going to handle this situation when it comes to the future of Ripley in that world title? Because she's staring down the barrel of Liv Morgan too.
Well, listen, you know I'm a Rhea fan. It's been said in the past that I have similarities to Dominic, so I feel like I should back him as well. But listen, sometimes in life you get taught a lesson, you know? You get taught a lesson. Rhea's been seeing the actions that he's been partaking in with a certain Miss Morgan. Whether he has a say in this, whether he is just getting manipulated by Miss Morgan, listen, it remains to be seen at this point, I think. However, the one thing I will say is this, and I will always back Rhea. However, if she's playing a game here with Dominic, it's time to stop playing the game. The title's on the line. If Dominic is on the fence, he could go either way right now. And the thought of his mammy going anywhere near Jey Uso after the history him and Dom have had, they've been at each other a fair few times, that could be enough to push him towards Liv Morgan and end up costing Rhea the title. That's all I'm saying. It could happen. So I'm worried for all parties. Because I feel like I love everyone in this situation. Apart from Liv, man. Liv's playing games. And I'm not okay with that. But, as I said last time, if Jay wants to be with Rhea, let it happen. Why not? Yeet.
But respect.
She is not playing games.
Yeah, I thought, hang on, I'm not happy about this at all, Jordy. I thought your entire thing is you love chicken nuggets, you love chicken tendies. She is giving your boy, Mr. Dirty Dominic Mysterio, free chicken tendies and chicken nuggets on a weekly basis.
Yeah, but listen, sometimes you can't, right? So sometimes you have chicken tendies, but you go to Mackey's, you go to McDonald's, sometimes you get different sauce, you know? Sometimes you get different sauce. Rhea might want to try that Samoan spice, and I'm not going to stand in the way of that. If she wants to do that, that's her prerogative, you know? Everyone needs to find a different... Everyone needs to find their own sauce, man, and I'm not going to stand in the way of Rhea's because of my similarities to Dominic.
I was going to say, for all we know, Rhea's handing out burgers.
Okay, first and foremost, the only time it would make sense is if she went to Chick-fil-A and got the Polynesian sauce. But that's not what she's
Different.
doing.
Could be.
Rhea Ripley's a bully.
No,
She is a bully.
Yeah.
she's not a bully. She's not a bully. She's hurt.
Why didn't she text Dom?
She just looks mean.
She's Why didn't Dom text her, man?
Yeah,
Why
He
didn't
was
Dom
waiting
text
for-
her?
He was,
Phone works
he was
both ways.
waiting for her to text him.
That's not how it works, man. If you're
Works both ways.
If the person I love is injured, you know, if the person that you, if
Yeah,
the, one of the people that you get along with really well is away for a week, the normal thing is to text them and say, "I hope you're okay." Not
busy with
badmouth them, not badmouth them on the show that they're meant to be on, Shad. That you're meant to, when people are away from the show, they're meant to text them and double check and make sure they're okay. You know,
Shots fired.
I thought that was the done thing, but apparently not. Apparently not.
Maybe
This
Rhea
is
was hanging out
gold.
where you were on Tuesday.
This is a gold take by numero one Superfly here. Random booking decision. Have Dominic Mysterio become the special guest referee between Rhea and Liv. Please. Please.
Oh, wow.
I love that. That is actually gold. Great comment.
I think he'll turn on her. He's going to turn on her.
He's gonna hit Rhea Ripley with a box of that styrofoam container at Raising Cane's, and then that it's gonna be it.
I was thinking that they do a reverse ladder match and they actually put Dom under the ring this time and have the first one to retrieve him win
Save
between
him.
Liv and Ripley.
And why? Why would it be under the ring?
I honestly,
I just want.
I think he's going to turn on her, and I think he'll use this Jey Uso thing. I think he's going to say the whole, you know, we were on a break, Ross and Rachel situation. He was going to be like, I thought you were with Jay,
Yes.
and then it's going to be chaos, and
Oh,
And it
They're
was
all-
Joey,
they're all
it
playing
was
silly
Joey all
games.
along.
all playing
Clearly,
silly
she
games.
doesn't like chicken tenders because she's at Waffle House, but that's neither here or there.
Whoa.
My question
Gathered.
is, how does Buddy Matthews feel about all of this? I think that's the question which AEW have refused to answer. Buddy Matthews. They just he's AEW, right? This is my issue with
think you
AEW.
meant
They don't tell
Murphy?
stories. They've just forgotten to book how Buddy Matthews is feeling
He's
about
on
all this.
hiatus.
Right?
Buddy
he's too
Murphy's on
busy.
hiatus. He's not in
He's too
WWE.
busy. He's too busy playing with Ouija boards with the House of Black, right? He's not worried about his woman at the end of the day.
Oh,
right?
that's the same guy?
Yeah, he's hanging out at Hot Topic. I mean, nobody cares about what he's doing. Soul probably
It
will know
is.
where he's at.
It is the messiest situation ever when you've got like 6 people involved in Raw in this love storyline, and then outside of Raw you've got like another 6, and then it's like a 12-person love story.
In all seriousness, though, I do actually love that they've brought this Jay thing back into it, because back when he first came to Raw, he did the whole thing with Rhea, didn't he? He was like, "Oh, Rhea knows who I am." So I actually really like that they found a way to
Long-term
somehow bring this
booking.
back in. Yeah, I
It's
do like
basically
it.
It's like a love quadrihedral. It's not a love triangle. Everyone's involved.
There's too many
Love
many
mess.
edges to this shape. But Souls are saying
geometry.
Jordy just cock charred like one of his chicken tendies.
Yeah, deep fried, brother.
Anthony Manzano saying this is an eye for an eye. Dominic is flirting with Liv, so I give Rhea a pass for flirting with Jay. Good point. Good
An eye for
point.
an eye, leave the whole world blind, Anthony. We can't. Someone has to be the bigger person.
That's
I don't
also
know.
a good point. That
Liv
is
Morgan has done
also.
nothing wrong ever in
Thank
the
you,
world.
George.
She is
That's the funniest thing.
perfect.
No.
Just a perfect individual. She has a great heart. We love Liv here.
Yeah, I'm a Liv stan too. I'm a Liv stan too.
Can't,
You're all
be-
blinded.
we can't all
Blinded.
be walking around with eye patches like Jordy said. He had it right.
Anyway, guys, let's talk.
We would be in
Let's
Pirates of the
talk.
Caribbean.
Arr.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk a little bit about the weekend, shall we? Basically, guys, right, as I said at the start of the show, it is boiling hot here in the UK. And for whatever reason, I'll go on a story time for a second. Whatever reason, my laptop cannot take the heat. So after last time this situation happened, I took it to the Apple store. They took it apart for me, and they said that I had an absolutely unimaginable amount of dust on it. So they cleaned it up for me. But it's now the same thing's happening again, and I refuse to believe that this unimaginable amount of dust has suddenly reappeared and is imaginable once again. And now this is happening. It's blatantly another issue.
Buddy Matthews and his Ouija board. That's what it is.
But I've got the Slammiversary card back up now, guys. We're all good. I've got it back up. Right. Slammiversary tomorrow night. It's an absolutely stacked card. We have Mike Santana versus Jake Something. Matt Hardy versus JDC. The Rascals versus No Quarter Catch Crew in a prohibited portal, forbidden door, whatever you want to call it match. We have the System versus ABC for the TNA World Tag Team titles. We have AJ Francis versus PCO for the TNA Digital Media and International Heavyweight Championship. Bit of a long name. And then we have, which I'm most excited for, Mustafa Ali versus Mike Bailey for the X Division Championship. And then for the Knockout belt, as you guys mentioned earlier, we have Jordan Grace versus Ash by Elegance, who, by the way, gets too much hate, Shad. Put some respect on Ash by Elegance's name. And then for the World Championship, we have Moose versus Nick Nemeth versus Steve Macklin versus Josh Alexander versus Joe Hendry versus Frankie Kazarian in a 6-way match, which I think is going to be absolutely insane. We also have got Kushida versus Jonathan Gresham on the pre-show, and Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards versus Spitfire for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships on the Countdown show as well. It is an absolutely stacked card. I am hyped for it. But we've not only got that this weekend, because tonight on SmackDown we have Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade. We also have Logan Paul responding to LA Knight, his challenge for a match at SummerSlam. And we also have Cody Rhodes grabbing the mic and asking us what we want to talk about. But what I want to talk about is, what are you most excited for this weekend, Jordy?
I'm excited for Logan to finally find his way back to SmackDown. I don't know what happened. He lost his map. I don't know what he's been up to, but he's a champion, and it's time to come to SmackDown, and it's time to answer LA Knight's call. We've been waiting. He's been waiting. It's time, brother. SummerSlam, your time's up. That belt is coming back to SmackDown. And listen, I've said it before, I'm not as anti-Logan Paul as a lot of them, and I wanted this run to be a chance for him to really get to work, and it's not been that. So it's time. I've learned my lesson. Come and bring the belt back, Logan. And yeah, I just want to see LA Knight. Hopefully he's there. I don't know if he will be. I'm a little bit worried about that.
Oh, well, I hope he's there. We need to see them, really. I said this on Allison Analysis last week, but that feud, it feels like it's been going on for like a year. It was rumored for WrestleMania, and it didn't happen then, and it still doesn't happen now.
I really think they dropped the ball on not having Logan show up at Money in the Bank to cost him that. I really do. I really think that would have been the final thing that would have made sense of him going to Nick Aldis's office and demanding that match, because it would have been like, he's cost me the chance at a title, now he's giving me that chance back because he's got a belt. That just made sense. I was convinced it was going to happen. I would have put money on it, but it didn't. So I agree. It feels like a long time ago that he did that house invasion at Logan's and was laying in the pool. So I don't know how we've become so long and they've not actually had a match yet, but it's coming. It's coming.
Hopefully. We have Soul Sin PCO versus AJ. Could be the worst match of this year. Meanwhile, Anthony Manzano's got another good point. Are we forgetting that Finn Balor took the room key? I'm not forgetting that. I still think Finn and Liv are in cahoots. Mm-hmm. I think they're. I think that's another thing. Finn Balor's wife's now going to get involved. There's too many people in this love. I don't even know the name.
My wife will get involved if I carry on.
Oh, everybody's just jumping in. It's a free for all. A free for all. Everybody's with everybody on Monday nights. Must be Monday, but. Shad, I want to get your thoughts. What are you most excited for on this weekend?
I'm excited for my battle tomorrow. Cheap plug right there. But I'm most excited for Slammiversary. It's always great to see pay-per-views, and like you said, a lot of matches on this card tomorrow. The two matches I'm most excited for, I'll give one match because obviously I don't know if Clark is going to break down a Slammiversary match or whatnot, but I'm definitely excited to see the Rascals versus the No Quarter Catch Crew. Obviously, y'all know me. I'm the Tuesday Night Delight. Those are my boys, the No Quarter Catch Crew, Dempsey, Heights, Osborne, all talented young stars. And I like that they're getting an opportunity to, go different places. Obviously, we got Heights gonna be wrestling at Noah. Talented wrestler, by the way. I gotta say that. I've seen him live wrestle episode of Main Event when I went to Raw late last year. Super talented guy, really fluid in ring. Him and Apollo Crews had a great match, and Dempsey's like low key the forbidden door himself. Out of all the WWE guys, he's popped out in so many places. So, and he's gonna keep going at it. But the Rascals, man, we get these dudes back in the ring. It's gonna be so cool to see them
Yeah.
return. It was so cool to see Wesley back yesterday on TNA with the in the treehouse and them doing the little promo thing. And I think it's gonna be fun. So I'm definitely excited to see the Rascals versus the No Quarter Catch Crew.
Oh, that is gonna be unreal. And I mean, like we say, whatever you want to call it, the prohibited portal, the forbidden door, it is just crazy to think that, in this match, 4 out of the 6 talents are contracted to WWE to NXT. It's wild.
Yeah, that is wild to see, and so that goes back to what I was saying like earlier. Like I think you can book stuff creatively like that. Like the guys in the No Quarter Catch Crew are perfect examples of people that benefit just roaming around and getting their eyes out there. And like Dempsey's really talented, man. Like the
Yeah.
kid is really, really good as a professional wrestler. Like that's kind of been said with that. But like now you're starting to see his character develop a lot. He is like he's William Regal's son. He's got the charisma and funny personality that Regal has to it. And I like it. I've been enjoying it. It's cool to see the Rascals like Trey Miguel and Zach Wentz also pull up the NXT. I think Trey Miguel like fits like a glove if he in NXT. Like it seemed like he's just an NXT wrestler when he's in there. He could have fun matches too. So I hope it keeps happening.
Yeah, no, I do as well. I was always surprised that he didn't follow them both when they went to NXT originally.
It benefited him though. I will say
That's
because I
true.
think
That's true.
I think like him and Josh Alexander are two guys that a lot of people were like, what are they gonna do? Because Ethan Page, when the North broke up and he went to AEW, and then Trey was like by himself after MSK went to NXT. Like them two really built themselves up as single stars, especially like Josh Alexander. Like I don't think he's who he is today if Ethan Page didn't go to AEW, aka Clark's favorite wrestler.
Oh, we've got a really
Die
nice
Scott
comment.
Hall.
I want to shout out on Instagram too. Liv Fumone is saying, "Love your live. You guys deserve more viewers. Thank you so much for watching. We really do
Man, I'll do the
appreciate
CEO
that.
dance.
Shout out to you. But what about you, Clark? What are you most excited for on this weekend?"
Okay, so really quickly out of the gates, and I don't even want to like start a big thing, but I get the criticism of the PCO AJ Francis match, but it is a really cool deal. PCO in his 37-year career has never wrestled on a major card in his hometown of Montreal. So I'm rooting for PCO to put on a show and prove everybody else wrong. I want him to get it right in Montreal in his hometown. He deserves the spot on the card. It's Montreal and it's where he's from. Now, what I'm looking forward to the most, my hometown, Chicago, Mustafa Ali X Division title against Speedball Mike Bailey. If that doesn't steal the show, I don't know what can. There's a lot of great matches on this card at Slammiversary, but Speedball Mike Bailey, I mean, we all know he can go, and this is one of those ones that could be match of the year if given the time. I don't think it will, because I also think there's another match on the card, Mike Santana and Jake something, that could do the very same thing and might be given more time than we expect as well. As a whole, the weekend's just so exciting.
It is. I mean, last weekend, basically, we just had a weekend, specifically Sunday, where there was nothing on. And everybody was just sitting there like, what are we meant to do? There's no wrestling on. Like, this hasn't happened in how long? It was just because almost every week some companies got a pay-per-view. There was nothing last week. This week we got Slammiversary, and it's kind of felt like in recent times a lot of TNA pay-per-views have been overshadowed by another event. But this weekend, well, minus the fact the Collision's on the same time, they're up against nothing. Like, it's not like there's any big shows on this weekend, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it is. It's worth watching, and Slammiversary is always good, right? It's their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's the big one. I've always felt
That's Bound for Glory. That's Bound for Glory.
Well, Bound for Glory
They correct
technically,
people
but
on that.
Slammiversary to me, because of the timing in the middle of the summer, it's always kind of like post 4th of July, and everyone's available to watch it. That's the one I have more memories of watching even than Bound for Glory. I didn't mean it from a marketing standpoint. I'm just saying personally.
Right, yeah. Well, no, but
I always
as a
look forward to
fan,
Slammiversary.
well, not even as a fan. As when I first saw the TNA pay-per-view lineup, I for years, not a good couple of years at least, thought that Slammiversary was the WrestleMania because it's the best name by far, but it's not. Bound for Glory, for whatever reason, is. I mean, I guess it makes sense. But anyway, guys, it's gonna be a stacked weekend for wrestling. I'm excited for it. It should be a fun one, that's for sure. But I think we've come to the conclusion today that WCW should not come back. Joe Hendry versus John Cena would be fun, but Clark doesn't believe in John Cena. TNA versus NXT Worlds Collide would just benefit absolutely nobody apart from TNA, and that's if they won. Rhea Ripley is in a love. I mean, there's like 20 billion people involved. I think the entire population of the world involved in this love storyline. Finn Balor's maybe involved. Who knows who's involved, right? Like Buddy Matthews, for whatever reason, isn't involved.
I'm
Tetrahedral.
not involved.
He's not involved.
But he's too busy playing with Dungeons and Dragons.
But what we do also know is that this weekend in professional wrestling is going to be a banger. If you guys did enjoy this podcast, please like and subscribe on whatever platform you are watching on. Thank you to Clark, thank you to Shad, and thank you to Jordy for joining me here today. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, to talk a little bit of the SmackDown. Peace!